Let me tell you something powerful. Silence is not weakness. Silence is power. A woman who understands silence understands control. When you stop over-explaining, over-texting, and over-proving yourself, something shifts. A man starts leaning in. He starts wondering. And when he wonders, he gets hooked. Rule number 1, don't always respond instantly. Let me explain something that most women get wrong. And they get it wrong because their heart is pure. When you like a man, when you feel that spark, your natural instinct is to show interest. So your phone lights up and boom, you respond in 5 seconds. He calls, you answer on the first ring. He sends hey, and you're already typing 3 paragraphs back. Now listen carefully. When you reply to every message instantly, you are unintentionally teaching him something. You are teaching him that no matter what he does, no matter how long he disappears, no matter how little effort he gives, you will always be there, always ready, always available. And availability without value becomes predictable. A man is wired to appreciate what he has to think about, what he has to anticipate, what he has to earn. If he never has to wonder what you're doing, if he never has to wait, if he never feels even a small gap between his effort and your response, his mind stays relaxed, comfortable. And comfortable men don't chase. They don't lean in. They don't feel urgency. But when you don't respond instantly, not to play games, but because you genuinely have a life, something changes. When he texts and you're busy working on your goals, when he calls and you're out enjoying dinner with friends, when he sends a message and you're in the gym reading a book, building your business, and you reply later, calmly, warmly, but later, you send a powerful message without saying a word. I have a full life, and a woman with a full life is magnetic. Mystery creates value. Think about it. When something is always there, always accessible, always immediate, the brain stops releasing excitement. But when there's space, even a little space, the mind fills in the blanks. He starts wondering, who is she with? What is she doing? Not because you manipulated him, not because you ignored him, but because you're not glued to your phone waiting for validation. You're living. There is a difference between interest and over-availability. Interest says, I enjoy talking to you. Over-availability says, you are my priority before I'm even yours. When you respond instantly every time, you remove anticipation. There's no buildup, no excitement. It becomes routine. And routine without depth kills attraction fast. But when you take your time, and I'm not talking about playing childish delay games, I'm talking about genuinely responding when it fits your schedule. You create rhythm, and rhythm creates tension, good tension, attractive tension. He sends a message at 2 p.m. You respond at 4:30 p.m. Cheerful, relaxed. Now he's been thinking about you for 2.5 hours. That small wait made him invest mentally. And the more a person invests mentally, the more attached they become emotionally. Here's the real secret. It's not about making him wait. It's about not rearranging your world for someone who hasn't earned that position yet. High-value women don't drop everything for potential. They respond when it's convenient. They give energy when energy is reciprocated. They move with intention, not impulse. And when a man senses that you are not desperately waiting, that you are not anxiously watching the screen, that your happiness does not depend on his notification, respect grows. Because confidence is quiet. Desperation is loud. When you reply instantly every single time, especially early on, it can signal, I hope he doesn't lose interest. But when you move calmly, when you allow space, when you let conversations breathe, it signals emotional security. And emotional security is addictive. He starts leaning forward, he starts initiating more. He starts double texting sometimes, not because you're ignoring him, but because he feels he has to step up to keep your attention. And here's the deeper layer most people don't talk about. When you don't respond instantly, you protect your own emotional balance. You don't get pulled into constant checking, constant waiting, constant reacting. You stay centered. You stay focused. You remain the prize in your own life. And when you feel like the prize, you act like it. Remember this: attraction grows in space. Desire grows in anticipation. Respect grows when effort is required. So don't always respond instantly. Let him feel your absence just enough to appreciate your presence. Let him wonder just enough to value your time. Because the woman who is busy building her life, who responds with warmth but not urgency, who gives attention but not instant access, she becomes unforgettable. Rule number 2, stop arguing, start observing. Let me tell you something that will change the way you deal with conflict forever. Every time a man says something foolish, immature, or careless, your first instinct might be to correct him, to explain, to defend yourself, to prove your point. You want him to understand you. You want him to see where he's wrong. So you raise your voice a little, you repeat yourself, you bring receipts, you build a case like you're in court. But here's the truth: the more you argue, the less he listens. When emotions rise, logic leaves the room. The moment it turns into a back and forth battle, it's no longer about understanding. It's about winning. And when a man feels challenged aggressively, his ego steps in to protect him. He stops hearing you. He starts defending himself. That's why sometimes the most powerful response is no response. When he says something foolish, and instead of reacting, you simply look at him calmly, pause, and say nothing, something shifts. That silence creates discomfort, and discomfort creates reflection. See, when you argue, you give him something external to fight against. But when you observe quietly, he has nothing to push back on. Now he's alone with his own words. And that's where growth happens. A calm look and a quiet pause will make him replay what he just said. He'll start thinking, wait, did that sound wrong? He'll feel the weight of his own tone. He'll notice your energy change. And trust me, that silence will echo in his mind much louder than shouting ever could. Strong women don't argue every point. They gather information. When you stop reacting immediately, you start observing patterns. You notice how he handles pressure. You notice whether he takes accountability on his own. You notice if he circles back and says, you know what? I was wrong. That tells you more about his character than any argument ever will. Arguments drain your femininity. Observation strengthens it. When you argue constantly, you step into a competitive energy. You're trying to dominate the conversation. But when you observe, you stay grounded. You stay composed. You remain in control of your emotions. And control is power. There's something intimidating about a woman who doesn't react impulsively, a woman who can sit in silence, breathe, and choose her response carefully. That's maturity. That's emotional intelligence. That's strength. Now let me be clear. Silence does not mean accepting disrespect. It doesn't mean tolerating abuse. It means choosing timing over tension. Instead of correcting him in the heat of the moment, you can say calmly, interesting, and leave it there. That one word will make him think all night. Or you can pause, look at him, and change the subject. Your energy will communicate that something was off. And when he values you, he will come back to fix it. Because here's the secret. When a man cares, he hates feeling like he disappointed you. If you argue loudly, he can label you as dramatic. If you insult him back, he can label you as disrespectful. But if you go quiet and composed, Now he has to look inward. Silence removes his excuse to deflect. And when you observe instead of argue, you protect your peace. You don't let every small comment pull you into chaos. Not everything deserves your reaction. Some things deserve your mental note. Sometimes a man will reveal his mindset through careless jokes, through dismissive comments, through subtle disrespect. If you argue immediately, you might miss the bigger picture. But if you observe quietly, you gather clarity. You start asking yourself, is this a one-time slip, or is this who he truly is? That awareness is priceless. Also understand this: men process things differently. When you lecture, they tune out. When you pause, they lean in. Silence creates curiosity. It forces him to fill the gap. And people are far more convinced by their own conclusions than by your explanations. If he realizes he was wrong on his own, that lesson sticks. If you force it into him, he resists it. A woman who masters observation doesn't waste energy trying to fix a grown man. She watches, she evaluates, she decides, because sometimes the argument isn't about the comment, it's about the pattern behind it. When you stop arguing, you see clearly. When you stop reacting, you hear more. When you start observing, you gain power. And let me tell you something powerful. Nothing unsettles a man more than calm disappointment. Not screaming, not insults, just a quiet shift in your energy. That silence will echo. He'll replay the conversation in his head while driving, while showering, while trying to sleep. He'll think about your expression, your pause, your calm, because your silence forced him to meet himself. So the next time he says something foolish, don't rush to correct him. Pause, observe, let your silence do the teaching. Because a woman who controls her reaction controls the room. Rule number 3, don't chase clarity. Let him reveal himself. Let me tell you something that most women struggle with, especially when feelings get involved. When you start liking a man, when the conversations are flowing, when the chemistry feels right, when you've invested time, energy, emotion, it's natural to want clarity. You want to know where you stand. You want security, so the question starts forming in your mind, what are we? And sometimes you ask it too soon, not because you're needy, not because you're desperate, but because you want reassurance. But here's the powerful truth. Clarity forced too early creates pressure, not commitment. When you chase clarity, when you push for labels before actions have matured, you interrupt the natural unfolding of the connection. You're trying to define something that hasn't fully revealed itself yet. And when a man feels cornered into defining something, his instinct is to create space, not closeness. Now listen carefully. When you stop asking for clarity and start observing behavior instead, something shifts. Instead of saying, what are we? You quietly ask yourself, how does he treat me? If he calls consistently, that's clarity. If he makes plans in advance, that's clarity. If he introduces you to his world, that's clarity. If he disappears and resurfaces when convenient, that's clarity too. You don't need to interrogate a man to know where you stand. You need to watch what he consistently does. When you stop chasing answers and start focusing on your own happiness, your work, your goals, your friendships, your peace, he feels that shift in energy. He feels that you are no longer anxiously waiting for him to define the relationship. And that's when he begins to lean forward. Men step up when they feel they might lose something valuable, not when they feel they have it secured without effort. If he senses that your entire emotional state depends on his next text, he relaxes. But when he senses that you are fulfilled, centered, and not clinging for definition, now he sees value. Value attracts pursuit. Here's what most people don't understand. When you ask, "What are we?" too early, you might get an answer, but it may not be the truth. It might be what he says to keep you comfortable. It might be vague. It might be temporary, but when you give space, when you allow time and consistency to reveal intention, the truth shows itself naturally. Silence creates space, and in that space, patterns become clear. Does he move closer or farther? Does he increase effort or decrease it? Does he invest emotionally or stay surface level? You don't have to force revelation. Just watch. A high-value woman doesn't chase clarity. She attracts it by her standards. She lives her life fully. She doesn't pause her dreams waiting for someone to choose her. She continues building, glowing, improving. And when a man sees that you are not clinging to him for identity, he starts realizing something important. This woman doesn't need me. She chooses me. And being chosen feels powerful. But losing that choice, that creates urgency. When you stop asking where it's going, you give him the opportunity to show you where he's willing to take it. If he's serious, he'll defend. He himself, if he's unsure, his hesitation will reveal it. If he's wasting time, his inconsistency will expose it. Either way, you win, because you're no longer begging for clarity. You're receiving it through behavior. Understand this deeply. The right man does not need to be pressured into commitment. He will volunteer it. He will initiate the conversation. He will secure his position in your life because he doesn't want competition. But he can only feel that urgency if you are not over-pursuing reassurance. Silence here does not mean avoidance. It means emotional confidence. It means trusting that what is meant for you will not require interrogation. When you stop chasing clarity, you also protect your dignity. There is something powerful about a woman who can sit back, observe, and let a man prove himself without demanding it. You're not passive, you're selective, you're not confused, you're patient, and patience reveals character. Sometimes you think you want clarity, but what you really want is confirmation that he feels the same way you do. And the truth is, you can't force someone to feel deeper by asking questions, but you can inspire deeper feelings by becoming irreplaceable. Focus on your glow. Focus on your joy. Let him notice that your life is moving forward whether he steps up or not. That realization alone will push the right man to claim you. Because when silence creates space and space creates realization, that's when truth shows up. So don't chase clarity. Let him reveal himself. And remember, the woman who doesn't beg for answers is the woman who receives the strongest ones. Rule number 4, keep your plans private. Let me tell you something that powerful women understand early. Privacy is power, not secrecy. Not every move needs an announcement. Not every plan needs a broadcast. Not every thought needs to be shared in real time. When you tell a man every detail about your day, every plan for your weekend, every future goal you're working on, you remove discovery. And discovery is attraction. When he already knows everything, there's nothing left to explore. There's no mystery, no anticipation, no curiosity. And curiosity is emotional attraction. Think about it. If he asks, "What are you doing this weekend?" and you immediately give him a full breakdown, Friday dinner at 7, Saturday gym at 10, brunch at 12, shopping at 3, you've laid the entire map out on the table. But if you smile and say, "I've got a few things planned," and leave it there, something happens. His mind starts filling in the blanks. Who is she with? What's she doing? Why didn't she tell me everything? And now he's thinking about you more than he expected to. The less he knows, the more he wants to find out. That's not manipulation. That's human psychology. Mystery triggers Imagination. Imagination fuels desire. When you keep your plans private, you signal that your life is full, that your world does not revolve around updating him every hour, that you have depth beyond the conversation. A woman who overshares too quickly can unintentionally lower her perceived value, not because she's not valuable, but because access was given too easily. Access should be earned. Information is access. When a man gradually discovers you, your ambitions, your routines, your passions, it feels like progression. It feels like he's unlocking something special. But when everything is available instantly, there's no buildup. High-value energy is selective energy. You don't hide your life, you just don't narrate it. There's something magnetic about a woman who is present, warm, engaging, but still lightly unreadable, slightly predictable, slightly private. It keeps him leaning in. Let's go deeper. When you share every plan in advance, you also give him the comfort of knowing you're available. He knows exactly when you're free, exactly when you're home, exactly what you're doing. There's no urgency to secure your time. But when he doesn't fully know your schedule, he feels a subtle pressure to plan ahead, to claim space in your calendar before someone else does. Scarcity creates scarcity. You don't owe anyone real-time updates unless they've earned that position in your life. Early on especially, mystery protects your emotional leverage. If he asks, "Where are you going?" you can say, "Out." If he asks, "With who?" you can say, "Friends." Simple, calm, confident. You're not defensive. You're not evasive. You're composed. And that composure is attractive. Because here's the truth. When you overshare too soon, you sometimes reveal your emotional investment before he has matched it. You might unintentionally show him how much space he occupies in your mind. But when you move quietly, when you execute plans without announcing them, when you upgrade your life without advertising every step, you create intrigue. And intrigue builds attachment. He starts paying more attention. He asks more questions. He becomes more intentional. Curiosity is emotional glue. Also understand this: privacy protects your peace. When you keep your plans private, you're not opening your life up for commentary, judgment, or unnecessary opinions. You move freely. You move confidently. There is strength in moving silently. A woman who announces everything seeks validation. A woman who builds quietly seeks results. And results speak louder than announcements. Let him discover your layers slowly. Let him see your growth over time. Let him like every conversation reveals something new, because the brain craves novelty. When there's always something new to learn about you, attraction stays alive. Predictability without depth becomes boring. But mystery with warmth, that's addictive. Now remember, this is not about playing hard to get. It's about being hard to fully know too quickly. You're a story that unfolds. So keep your plans private. Move with intention. Share gradually. Let him earn access to your world piece by piece. Because the woman who reveals herself slowly becomes unforgettable. And the more he has to discover, the more he'll want to stay. Rule: walk away quietly from disrespect. Let me tell you something that separates emotionally powerful women from emotionally reactive ones. It's not how loudly they speak, it's how calmly they leave. When a man disrespects you, maybe it's a careless comment, maybe it's inconsistency, maybe it's blatant disregard for your feelings, your first instinct might be to confront him with fire, to explain how wrong he is, to make sure he understands exactly how much he hurt you. You want him to feel it. You want justice. But here's the truth most people learn too late. The strongest response to disrespect is not a dramatic reaction. It's controlled distance. No yelling, no emotional paragraphs, no 10-minute voice notes. Just a shift. A strong woman doesn't beg for better treatment. She doesn't negotiate for basic respect. She doesn't sit at a table where she has to convince someone to value her. She removes access, and when access is removed, value increases. See, when you argue loudly after being disrespected, you still show investment. You still show that he has emotional control over you. Even anger is a form of attention, and attention to someone careless feels like where. But when you go quiet, not silent treatment, not manipulation, just calm detachment that hits differently, because now he feels the absence. Your energy changes, your warmth changes, and suddenly he notices what he took for granted. There is something deeply unsettling about a woman who doesn't fight to stay, who doesn't beg, who doesn't chase after being hurt. When you walk away quietly, you force him to confront consequences without chaos distracting him. No drama means no villain role for him to hide behind. No shouting means no excuse to call you emotional. No long speeches means no script for him to twist. Just space. And space makes people think. When you remove access, you remove comfort. You remove the certainty that you'll always be there. And humans only truly evaluate value when they feel the possibility of loss. That quiet exit will echo in his mind longer than any argument ever could. He'll replay the moment. He'll question himself. He'll feel the shift in energy. Because deep down, men understand something important. A woman who can walk away calmly is a woman who knows she has options. And nothing creates respect faster than knowing you are replaceable. Let's go deeper. When you stay and fight for respect, you unintentionally teach him that disrespect is negotiable, that he can cross a boundary, apologize casually, and everything returns to normal. But when you withdraw without theatrics, you teach him something different. Access to me is a privilege, and privileges can be revoked. High-value women don't threaten to leave every week. They don't make dramatic exits to test reactions. They move once, clearly and confidently, when a line has been crossed. And that clarity is powerful. Because here's the reality. Words can be debated. Emotions can be dismissed, but absence cannot be ignored. You stop calling, when you stop texting first, when you stop showing up the same way. He feels it, and that feeling forces reflection. Now, this doesn't mean tolerating patterns of abuse or waiting endlessly for change. It means recognizing the moment when respect drops and responding with self-respect. Sometimes the most powerful sentence you can say is nothing at all. Just okay. And then distance. A quiet okay carries more weight than a screaming match. Because it says, I see who you are. And once you see clearly, you move accordingly. Also understand, walking away quietly protects your dignity. You don't expose your pain to someone who mishandled your heart. You don't give them a dramatic performance to analyze later. You exit with grace. Grace is intimidating. Chaos is expected. Anyone can argue. Not everyone can detach. And when you detach with composure, you send a message without ever saying it. I will not compete for respect. That energy changes dynamics. If he values you, he will step up. He will notice the shift. He will correct his behavior because he understands that losing you is possible. If he doesn't step up, then your quiet exit just saved you from future pain. Either way, you win. Because you chose yourself. Remember this: love without respect is attachment, not partnership. And attachment can make you tolerate things your standards would normally reject. But a strong woman's standards are not emotional, they are foundational. So when disrespect shows up, she demonstrates it by walking away quietly. And trust me, that silence, that distance, that calm removal of access will hit harder than any argument ever could. Because nothing shakes someone more than realizing the woman they thought would stay has already moved on. Rule number 6, let him miss you. Let me tell you a thing that most people are afraid to practice. Constant presence kills desire. It feels good to always be around, to always text, to always call, to always check in. It feels safe, it feels connected. But attraction does not grow in constant access. It grows in space, when you are always available, emotionally, physically, digitally. There is no room for anticipation, no room for longing, no room for him to sit with your absence and actually feel it. And people only fully appreciate what they have when they experience what it feels like without it. Let him miss you, not in a childish game-playing way, not disappearing to create anxiety, but pulling back just enough to create breathing room, just enough to allow the connection to stretch instead of suffocate. Space feeds desire. When you're constantly texting all day, there's nothing left to talk about at night. When you're always saying yes immediately, there's no effort required to see you. When you fill every quiet moment with noise, there's no opportunity for reflection. But when you step back slightly, when you let conversations end naturally instead of dragging them, when you sometimes say, "I'll talk to you later, I have things to do," something powerful happens. He feels the gap, and that gap makes him realize how much energy you brought into his life. He notices the difference. The silence between texts feels louder. The evenings feel a little less exciting. The day feels slightly incomplete. That is missing someone, and missing someone builds emotional attachment. You cannot miss what is always there. Desire needs contrast. Think about your favorite song. If it played nonstop 24/7, eventually you'd tune it out. But when there's silence between plays, when you hear it after some time has passed, it hits differently. Your presence should feel like that, not constant background noise, but something he looks forward to. Now listen carefully. Silence isn't about manipulation. It's about self-control. It's about resisting the urge to constantly reach out for reassurance. It's about not texting just because you're bored. It's about not filling every quiet space with words just to maintain attention. It's about being comfortable with absence. When you know your worth deeply, you don't panic in silence. You don't rush to close every gap. You trust that your presence has impact even when you're not there. That confidence is magnetic. When you master silence, you become unforgettable. Because unforgettable women are not loud. They are intentional. They speak when necessary. They show up fully, and then they return to their own world. And that balance creates addiction, because when a man feels peace in your presence, not chaos, not pressure, he associates you with emotional safety. When he feels mystery, not full access, he associates you with excitement. When he feels strength, not desperation, he associates you with respect. Peace, mystery, strength. And rare things are valued. When you allow him to miss you, you're also protecting your own emotional independence. You're not centering your entire day around his responses. You're building your life, growing, living, moving. And growth is attractive. A woman who has her own rhythm, her own goals, her own priorities. She doesn't cling. She compliments. There's a difference. Clinging creates pressure. Complimenting creates harmony. When you step back just enough, he leans forward. When you don't overgive, he feels the need to contribute. When you don't overwhelm him with constant attention, he starts initiating more because now he feels the space. And space creates pursuit. Also understand this. Letting him miss you filters intentions. A man who truly values you will close the gap. He will call. He will plan. He will step in. A man who is only enjoying convenience will fade. Either way, clarity appears, but you cannot see that clearly if you're constantly filling the silence. Sometimes the most powerful move is doing less. Less texting, less explaining, less chasing, more observing, more living, more glowing. Because a woman who can control her words can control the room. She doesn't speak out of anxiety. She doesn't react out of fear. She moves with calm authority, and that calm authority shifts dynamics without effort. In the end, addiction isn't built on noise. It's built on emotional experience. When he associates you with peace instead of pressure, with curiosity instead of predictability, with strength instead of neediness, he doesn't just like you. He feels drawn to you, pulled toward you. So let him miss you, because absence, when used with confidence, doesn't push a man away. It pulls the right one closer. In the end, these 6 silence rules are not about playing games. They're about playing your position with confidence. When you stop responding instantly, stop arguing unnecessarily, stop chasing celerity, keep your plans private, walk away from disrespect, and allow space to exist. You shift the dynamic without saying much at all. Silence is not emptiness. It is control. It is emotional maturity. It is self-respect in action. A woman who masters silence does not compete for attention. She commands it. She doesn't beg to be valued. She expects it. And she doesn't fear space. She understands that space reveals truth. When you move with calm confidence, when you protect your energy, when you let your presence be felt instead of forced, you become unforgettable. Because the real power isn't in how much you say, it's in what happens when you don't. And that kind of power, it changes everything.